Right, so a British minister has deleted a tweet as further news comes to light concerning the identity of the attacker involved in the Bondi Westfield attack in Sydney, which left 6 people dead. But why would he do such a thing? Well, it seems like many people, the minister in question, the UK security minister at that, made an assumption when initial camera footage seemed to imply the man had a dark complexion. That with all the turmoil in the Middle East right now, some very bad faith actors were jumping to the conclusion that based on this man's apparent skin colour, this must be a terror attack. Not every violent crime is a terror attack. Not everybody of a certain coloured skin is necessarily a terrorist either. And immediately making a dangerous and uncorroborated assumption such as appears to have happened here is not only false and misleading and hurtful to the families involved, but also racist. And potentially clouds any police investigation too. So in that vein, is it not entirely appropriate that Tom Tugendhat should resign? Right, so UK Security Minister Tom Tugendhat certainly isn't alone in having made an appalling knee-jerk assumption about the identity or the motivations of the man responsible for the killing of 6 people in Bondi Junction. But given his elevated position and the appalling lack of anything resembling due diligence here, it would appear, doubly so considering what his brief in government is, why has he not tendered his resignation yet, or indeed been sacked? Why instead has he deleted his awful tweet and thinks that's an end to it, brushed under the carpet now because screenshots have been taken and, well, they will then follow you around on the internet forever. You can't delete everything off the internet, it always lasts. But Tugendhat tweeted out yesterday afternoon in a now deleted tweet, "To many of us, Australia is like family. This morning we woke up to the shared shock and grief of the attack in Sydney. We stand together against the cruelty of terrorism and reject the hateful ideologies that inspire it." So this was a terrorist attack then? Well, it must be if the security minister has said so. This would be the natural conclusion many people will have leapt to, both in horror and sympathy for the family involved, but also in condemnation of whatever terrorist network this person was a part of. Except it hadn't been proven as such. And it seems the conclusion Tugendhat had arrived at with such certainty that he tweeted it out was based on nothing more than CCTV footage of the man on the move at the scene. He certainly wasn't the only high-profile individual pushing this narrative about this man, however. Our media have too. Talk TV mouthpiece Julia Hartley-Brewer, for example, put out a tweet herself saying, "Another day, another terror attack by another Islamist terrorist. 6 dead, others seriously injured, including a baby. Today it's Australia's turn. The other day it was France's. It'll be our turn next. How long do our governments think we're going to put up with this?" Definitely a far worse tweet than what Tugendhat put out. But again, the facts were not known at the time. But this person who has a large media platform, the only danger here is her words towards Muslims. So this is incitement, I would imagine, surely. Well, she did at least acknowledge her fault later on with a retraction, saying, "My tweet below was incorrect. The attack in Sydney was not an Islamist terror attack. It was carried out by a man the police have since named as Joel Couchy, who they say has mental health problems, not an ideological motive. I doubt that will be much consolation to the families of his victims." Perhaps it won't be, but you've still left your original post up, because instead of just making a new post and deleting the old one, you quote-tweeted your apology to your original tweet. So a lot of people will still only see that original tweet. There are others too. Rachel Riley and apparent comedian, though I've yet to ever see him say anything funny, a guy called Lee Kern, also posted similarly. People with platforms frankly abusing them with their references to Islamists and intifadas on our streets. The guy in question has now been identified, as Hartley-Brewer said in her correction there, as Joel Couchy, a 40-year-old from Queensland with mental health issues, who is very much white and not Muslim, as had been the inference for a good 24 hours based on seemingly nothing more than a grainy, dim CCTV image. But now he's been formally identified, we know better, and where some of these media figures and Z-list celebs can continue to leave their tweets up, it would seem Tugendhat has taken his down. Not a terrorist, it's a white guy. So what is it, Tom? Do you only have sympathy for the victims of terrorist attacks then, or did this guy just pass the colour chart test? Because you've not issued a correction or a retraction or any kind of sympathy message to continue to stand. Joel Couchy had mental health problems, and for a whole day, disgusting individuals jumped to the conclusion that this must be a jihadi, an Islamist, a terrorist, because his skin colour surely meant it's a terror attack. Islamophobia writ large. Then he turns out to be white. Oh dear, whoops, how sad, never mind. Because no issuing of a corrected statement has come from this minister. On Twitter at any rate, and he is a regular user. Certainly he was prepared to use that platform for his original comment, therefore you would imagine he would use it for any correction or retraction. But nor has he even chosen to reiterate his sympathy for the families involved either. So was he just disingenuous about that as well? All he has done since, it seems, is retweet criticisms of Iran's retaliation on Israel last night and very much is keeping mum. In light of all of this incitement, however, I feel it is worth drawing attention to one of the victims of Joel Couchy in particular. An individual who lost his life, the only male victim as it happens, the security guard who confronted Couchy and tried to stop the attacks, because his name was Faraz Tahir, and he was a Muslim. Not the attacker, not the terrorist, but a bloody hero. A man who, as it happens, had fled his own country of Pakistan due to persecution there, to end up giving his life trying to save the lives of those fellow Australian countrymen who had given him a new home and a new life. He was just 30. Another hero of the day who survived his own encounter with Couchy was a Ukrainian man called Silas Despero, who used a bollard to keep Couchy away from advancing on a children's play area. But no, it's vilify the Muslims again, isn't it? Even in this week as Muslims around the world are celebrating Eid, and in no small part does this story seem to drag us back to the issue of Israel here as well, as certainly Rachel Riley getting involved implies, but so does Tom Tugendhat, because he was one of several Tories named by Alan Duncan the other week as having pro-Israel bias, and in fact Duncan made the call that he should be sacked, alleging that Tugendhat doesn't believe in international law for refusing to condemn Israeli settlements in Palestine, which are of course illegal under international law. But again implies that there is a view here from this minister that Israel, the self-proclaimed Jewish state, have a right to oppress a majority Muslim people by creating these settlements. Aside from the families of the victims who I would extend my utmost sympathies to, I'd also extend it to the female police officer who happened to be the person who shot Couchy dead in order to protect others. Someone Couchy's family themselves have said they have no issue with, reportedly having said she was only doing her job to protect others, and we hope she is coping all right. Tugendhat really does need to answer for this. He needs to justify his motivations here, both in making that tweet and deleting it, because it all comes across in the worst possible way. That when this appeared to be a Muslim, and there was a terrorist angle here he could act all tough about, he was all over it. But when the truth comes out, he scuttles away, no correction, no justification, running and hiding. And I very much doubt Rishi Sunak will put the hard word on him about it either. I very much doubt anything is going to happen here, anything will be said to him at all, except by outraged people in this country who are sick and tired of Islamophobia being weaponised by those supposedly in charge of the country. It simply serves to remind us that so many of these disgusting individuals need removing from power as fast as possible. Alan Duncan's comments about Tugendhat and others in the Tory party are covered more in depth on this video recommendation here, which I definitely recommend for your next watch, though Labour tried to make the whole thing more about Jeremy Corbyn, making you wonder all the more who they are actually more opposed to, him or the Tories. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.